FM. It is your lifestyle. It's about leisure and business. This morning, we have been doing a blend of all those, giving you some wonderful tunes that relaxes you. But of course, talking some real serious business, economic matters. Just about moving on to the next. It's exactly 9 o'clock in the morning, and you do not want to change your dial. Just get glued to it. You can follow us on Facebook because we're streaming live, and on YouTube. You will get everything live there. And if you want to contribute via WhatsApp, 0544321019 or 0303956641. And for other information, entertainment, and all the news, you can reach us on Instagram, on Facebook, on X at ZFMGH, on TikTok and YouTube. In fact, if you want to follow us right now on our streams on YouTube, you can get us on Z Multimedia. And this is where you can get the best of leisure. You can get the best of lifestyle and the best of business. Stay tuned, because in just a short while, I've got Professor Gabriel Ishen on the line, and he's just about speaking to the issue of tourism and its impact on national development. We did hear earlier on what the receipts were for 2023, and which gave a significant improvement in 2024. What is finally going to happen in 2025? We are told that in December alone, it's estimated that about 500 million US dollars may have been accrued to the national kitty. And so we're going to look at how all this would, accrue to proper national development. The marketing of it, we all remember what's happened in the last 10 days or so, the visit by I Show Speed. Yes, I got that right. Somebody was saying that, na abe Aisha so no abagana here. Yeah, Aisha. Oh yeah, Aisha. Oh yeah, I Show Speed. The visit of this gentleman and what impact it's had on Ghana. How are we going to very strategically manage Ghana with over about 50 million plus followers or viewers, just because of his visit to Ghana? How are we building tourism? And Professor Gabriel Ishen is right on the line as I speak. Opia, mama watching.
Watching.
Wapo, man.
Yeah, no way.
I don't. Erade wa ma da chi hina ade no chede enyidado owo odima Ghana fu nyinara. Well, Prof, coming back to the business for the day. We Ghana knows you as one of the foremost professors of tourism and its development and all that. Can you in taking off this morning just give us a brief gist of when we say tourism, what it's all about?
Thank you very much. It is the nature of humans to make the best out of the environment. And it has been stated over and over again that when the bird does not fly, it ends up in hunger. But the hunger is not one of just the biology. The soul itself sometimes becomes so anemic because we fail to feed it with other experiences. And that is why it is important as human beings to be able to break the quotidian imprisonment that we have and to be able to go out there and explore. And by exploring, we rejuvenate ourselves with the fresh breath of the other places. And that is where tourism comes in, where we're able to move outside our normal ambience and be able to experience other places. And by doing so, we're able to learn new things, we're able to experience new things, and the soul itself comes back, refreshed. And that is the essence of tourism, to get you out of your normal environment and for you to be able to experience other places, because that is what humans should do.
The tourism on a quotidian
It's a quotidian realities.
That is the realities of the day and a daily experience and stuff like that.
Yeah, it becomes banal. Like every day you are at the same place. It becomes banal, like so common. So it is important. Tourism is the one that comes in to break that everyday boredom, everyday experience. It gives you a different worldview because by you traveling to another place, you're able to add new experiences, and life is actually built on experiences.
Excellent. And that's what the French will say, les expériences quotidiennes. That's what you said. Exactly. If I'll take it to the French language, isn't it? Excellent. Opia, now you've given a wonderful elaboration of what tourism actually is, but we also know that the United Nations will give us a certain definition. You have given us the practical one. Yes. If we were to write what the United States or the United Nations, I should say, would define what tourism would be, what would be the closest to it?
Okay. So in terms of the nomenclature of tourism, first, there are some things that we need to consider.
Okay.
A tourist does not go to a place for remuneration. In other words, if you go to a place and you are going to work and all that, we don't consider you as a tourist. So that is where the leisure aspect comes in for tourism. Also, you are expected, all things being equal, to spend at least 24 hours. And that is where also the practical aspect comes in, because what about those who are excursionists and may not be able to spend 24 hours, but they go to watch the museums, they go to the seaside and what have you. So the actual definition is there by the 24 hours mandate and all that, but it's not like, cast in stone.
It's not cast in stone. Yes. It is just indicating that you should be able to spend some considerable time at this other location that you might want to go to. Is that right?
Exactly.
Now, before you continue, Pia, you talked about a tourist or tourism would not consider going to a place to go and work for and stuff like that. I have heard you talk about business tourism and stuff like that. Where is the axis? Where are you pitching these two concepts? Where originally you're not supposed to be going to make money, but you would also consider others who would travel for business as business tourists and stuff like that. Any slight elaboration or elucidation on that?
Yeah, thank you very much. Tourism is export. And because by its very nature, it is part of the service industry. Business tourism is more about going to seek for opportunities. So, for example, under MICE, you can have an investment summit, for example.
That's right.
And when you have investment summit, you are not actually there working for the money. It's a conduit for getting the money. You see, so it's the service aspect of it that we are actually looking for. So, for example, when you go for visitors visa to USA, you are supposed to go and tour the place. But if you want to go and work there, you take a different visa to go. And these are some of the nuances that come out when it comes to tourism.
Okay.
But altogether, like I said, sometimes the textbook definitions must not become an albatross, because we've seen time and again about categories of tourism sometimes ethically may not even be allowed to stand. But then again, it might actually be what is fueling the tourism of a place. I mean, the quintessential tourism is about what we call the 3S tourism.
That's right.
Which is about the sun, where you go and you have some tan and all that, because to actually tease out what we call the fons et origo, or the origin of what tourism is about, it actually started somewhere 1841 in Leicester, in Midlands, England, when Thomas Cook, who was then a Baptist minister, was trying to let some people in Leicester not partake in a beer festival. So he organized a trip for them to go to Loughborough during the festive period, so that by the time they come back, the beer drinking session would have gone. People loved that trip. And later on, he started, taking people to Rome and other places. That is the beginning of tourism. And that is why at the train station at Leicester, you have the statue of Thomas Cook standing there as an embodiment of him being, this kind of tourism that we're talking about. But it was more after the Second World War when the Europeans realized that there were free aircraft and all that, some of them, coming at the back of the wall. And they realized that why don't we really use some of these for leisure? Also, laws were being passed where people had paid holidays. And the paid holidays allowed them, because during that time, they may be in winter and all that, in summer and other places. So they used the money from their paid holiday to go to Spain and other warmer places in Europe, and now to the Caribbean, US, and whichever place you can think about. So that really is the history of what tourism has become. Then we realize that when you go to the post-productivist paradigm, which is more about looking beyond what is in the soil, what is on top of the soil, to what comes from the human soul, the human hospitality, and the interactions, we realize that tourism really can become the linchpin, activity really that can leapfrog people, and countries by getting higher GDPs and all that. It will interest you to know that tourism and hospitality account for 10% of global GDP. Last year, 2024, and last year alone, too, tourism generated 357 million jobs. In fact, it's on record that among every 15 jobs created, tourism is right there with one. So 2025 alone, tourism generated 11 trillion, and it is being forecasted that by 2034, tourism will reach $16 trillion US.
So these are global figures, is that right?
Yes, from the for the UNWTO,
okay,
which is actually the body for this. And if you go to WTTC, these figures are just there.
Excellent.
But the thing is that Africa is still having a Picayune segment. A Picayune segment, Picayune segment.
We need to look at doubling our efforts and increasing our efforts in taking the rightful component of the cake.
Yes, because tourism is seen as an appurtenance, as something to be played with, a plaything. It's not taken as a serious sector, all right? And because we have been so much, cocooned, colonized with what is in the soil, what is on top of the cocoa, the gold, the diamond, the lithium, and all that. But the world is moving, and we must be able to look at the whole panoply of items that we have got to be able to position the country sustainably in terms of development. And that is why I keep saying that tourism is the new gold. Tourism is the new gold because you've seen what gold has done for us. First, gold was the reason why the transatlantic slave trade happened to us more. Because Kwame Nansa and all the rest, after they allowed the Elmina Castle to be this, and after they, in fact, they didn't even allow it at first, but the Portuguese forced them. And that's why Ghana have 75% out of all the slave edifices. Now, when you look at what gold has done to us, even up to now, there's still a lot of fight and romanticization and politicization, on gold, as if our mind is put in a box. But we are supposed to be thinking outside the box about the potential, the stupendous potential of tourism to the economy. And I can tell you for a fact that if Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park could generate 10 million Ghana cedis just last year, right, after the refurbishment, then you can then think through and see what the country stands to gain by leveraging on its strength, by looking at all the 16 regions and how we can strategically develop tourism in a way that spread the national cake to bring the needed material comfort, because we seem to be so much idealistic with our thinking, forgetting that the material consequences that we need to really confront as a country.
Prof, I was expecting you to mention the Asinema waterfalls in my holy village, in a Dukrum, very close to Akropong, where I sit, as a Bakamahini of the Kwapem traditional area. But I'll forgive you for that. I think that you have laid the basis for today's discussion. The world, life, business is not all about gold. Tourism can do much more than what gold and cocoa probably would have done in the past. I think this is an excellent basis for it. But Prof, before we go into the numbers and how we can achieve these numbers and all that, I loved your basic definition of what tourism is all about. But then you also gave that consideration to what business tourism. I've heard you talk about agro-tourism. I've heard you talk about health tourism and stuff like that. Can you just give us just a gist of some of these other tourism activities that can also help in generating funds? Then we'll come back and go into the details of what tourism can bring to us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks to the audience for listening in this morning. As a nation, it is always important. Nkrumah says something very important. Kwame Nkrumah, the Osajifo, says something very important. He says that we need to bring the gun to town. And I always have a way of, blowing this one out. That is more about everybody bringing their gifts on board for national development. And one of the things that we need to know and to really put into practice is the need for us not to just benchmark, but also to seek for authenticity. And that is where tourism comes in strongly. For example, Ghana is part of the top 25 African countries with richness and rarity in biodiversity. And when we talk about biodiversity, we are talking about the natural environment, the plant and animals that are there. Although we are having Galamsey doing us in and the deforestation, yada, yada. But Ghana still has a huge, amount of animals and an amount of plants that are endemic, that are just endemic to this place. And then ecotourists come in. When we say ecotourists are the tourists that are interested in looking at animals and plants and natural sceneries and all of that. So, for example, when you go to Pafori Lodge at Limpopo in South Africa, you go and watch the animals, the big five, as we call them in tourism, which is the buffaloes, the elephant, the leopards, the lions, and the rhinoceros. We may not have all the five charismatic species. When we say charismatic, that is, they are often the ones that are put at the back of the magazines. They're the ones that visitors often love to watch. But the good news is that we have hippos here in Ghana. Now we have even zebra here, and we have elephant at Mole, So we can hold our own when it comes to ecotourism. There are people at Bobri, butterfly sanctuary. We've got some of the biggest butterflies in West Africa, right there at Bobri in Ashanti region. So there are a lot of things that we can do even in ecotourism. And the good news is this, that when you look at ecotourism, which is by the definition of the Ecotourism Society, the International Society for Ecotourism, when you look at the definition, it says that ecotourism is a travel to natural areas that contribute to the conservation of plants and animals and the well-being of the local communities. So that is one of the most cardinal tourism activities that really is not only about conservation, but the development aspect of people and their areas as well. That's why I call it the dual mandate of ecotourism, which is conservation and development. Now, in Ghana, we have what they call the state-led ecotourism, which is the tourism that was based on the colonial forest reservations. So, for example, Kakum, Mole, Ankasa, all these ones were areas that during the colonialism, they realized that they have to conserve some of the natural areas from, destruction and man-made, interventions that were not actually adding up to the environment. So they conserved these areas. And after 1957, we realized that the Forest Cap 1957 actually allowed us to be able to conserve these and to put them under the jurisdiction of the government. So government now has oversight of these places through the Forestry Commission, all right? So the Forestry Commission now look at what we can do with these areas, and that is how we came out with the state-led ecotourism, what I call the state-led ecotourism. That is, they taking a frontal, approach to it by taking charge of the environment. But the only caveat is that we know that most of these places were what we call the common pool resource. In other words, the forest is there, You may not go in there, but you can go in there for snail and other non-forest products, which was allowed. So when you have tourism and it is not actually benefiting the local communities, it creates what we call in the Doxy Iridex, framework. It creates a bit of antagonism, and the antagonism is between the locals and the visitors. And when that happens, the visitors, of course, will lose interest in visiting the places, and that is why we advocated for the community-based ecotourism. Then the community-based ecotourism is a community actually taking charge of the resources under their domains and actually bringing tourism money to be able to create some semblance of development in their areas. And now the beautiful thing is that because of some of the successes of the community-based ecotourism like Boabin Fiema, Monkey Sanctuary, Tafia Tome, and other places, now we have, for example, Paradise Resort, we have all these Gomwa Wonderland, Gomwa Konkoland, it's springing up everywhere. They're crowned, forests where the president of the land now, Muhammad President, His Excellency, just visited somewhere in Central Region. So people are now seeing the benefit of even ecotourism and bringing some of the fauna, especially some of these charismatic fauna, right from South Africa and Kenya and all that, and bringing them in Ghana because people want to see some of these animals. So in terms of ecotourism, we've got a great stake, to be able to really benefit. I mean, if you go to Paga, we've got a bit of cultural thing to it, but that's also ecotourism because of the quite convivial, friendly, crocodiles that we've got there. Then you come to agrotourism. Agrotourism is really about going to agricultural areas. So the difference between ecotourism and agrotourism is that with ecotourism, it is more about in situ conservation. And when we say in situ conservation, that means that the plants are already there by nature. But agriculture is about cultivation and rearing. So here we are talking about the sheep, the goat, the poultry. We are talking about the oranges and all that. These are cultivated. And cocoa, and that's why I'm advocating for agrotourism in Ghana, because Ghana, really, there's something called the premium cocoa on the world market because of Ghana's cocoa. And a lot of people have not even seen the cocoa tree before. So the onus is on us. In fact, I remember doing something for GTA about 10 years ago, which they presented, in Italy on agrotourism. I don't know what became of it, but I remember doing a whole concert for them to take it there to present. And the thing is that it was about the fact that Ghana can position itself as the cocoa tourism hub in the world, because we are the number 2 in terms of cocoa production, and our neighbor Ivory Coast is just the listen. But the amazing thing is that the whole value chain of the cocoa can be put out there for people to see, right from the sowing of the seeds and the planting, then to the harvesting, to what have you, to the packaging and everything. It can all be shown. I mean, when you go to Mount Pong, where we have Tata Kwashi's place.
The Tata Kwashi Center, where cocoa is said to have been planted for the first time in Ghana. Yeah.
Yes, and it's there. The farm is there. The man is buried there. And you have it, and it's a white elephant. All right. So we need to be able to walk our talk, but first of all, having African being born in us. Now, to the slave castles, we have 75% out of all the edifices. The oldest European edifice in sub-Saharan Africa is at Elimina, 1482. Now, Cape Coast Castle was the headquarters of the English slave trade apparatus. So when it comes to diasporic travel or route travel or, historical travel, Ghana must be in the marketing. We say the evoke set should be at the top of it. But when you go to Gorée Island in Senegal, you realize that they don't have what we have. With all due respect, in terms of the numbers that we have in it, but they are getting the people coming in over and over again, and we can do more. I'm not saying we are doing nothing. We can do more to be able to attract this thing by forming the right narrative. Not only around the castles, by looking at the slave routes right from Salaga and even beyond, and telling a story that is compelling, a story that is Afro-optimistic, a story that is able to really position us in a way, because life is about storytelling. And so far, our stories have too much divergence instead of the confluence that is needed to be able to create the right images and the catharsis that we need to be able to draw the individuals from every part of the world. Brazil alone has the highest number of Africans in the diaspora. We never talk much about them. Our focus is on the US. But the whole world with scattered Africans, Ghana, with its peaceful nature and hospitable nature, being one of the most peaceful countries in Africa, can commoditize this intangible aspect and then put it out there for people to see. In terms of our gastronomy, there's stupendous jollof, fufu, you name it. Everybody who comes to Ghana just love our food, the prepared one, and even our fruits, the pineapples, the mangoes, you name them. These are real nutrition for the body. And we need to be able to kind of package them and not to also give them. We need branding. So, for example, you have a very nice snack like roasted plantain and granite, and you call it Kofi Brokman. That's rubbish. All right? You need to be able to touch it. In fact, I just came from Rabat in Morocco, and I was ordering my meal one time. They call something crying tiger. So I have to Google what the crying tiger is. Okay? Create the suspense. Create something out of it. Don't be Afro-pessimistic with the way we package some of the things. Okay. You must be able to bring what I call the refugient nature of our heritage. That sunshine nature of us must show, so that the darkness of the mind and the darkness of our gradualism can give way to the cheetah factor that we need to be able to move on.
Absolutely. Professor Gabriel Eshen, who is Professor of Tourism and Marketing Management, going so wild there in the fray, defining and giving us what tourism is all about. But Prof, don't forget, before we go, since you are outlawing Kofi Brokman, my most preferred, basic meal for the day, you want to give me the name that from tomorrow I'll start calling it before you will go away. So be thinking about that. Exactly, good people out there. It's 28 minutes past 9 o'clock. It's the 3rd of February, 2026. And we are looking at the economic benefits of what tourism will bring to us. And we've been listening to Professor Gabriel Eshen. He says that when it comes to ecotourism, Ghana is not lacking at all. When it comes to agrotourism, we are probably one of the best in the whole of the world. Now, talking about heritage sites, forts and castles, and it is confounding to know that almost about 75%, not almost about, but exactly 75% of all these forts and castles are located within Ghana, even making reference to the oldest found in Elmina. What have we done to all this? I was getting a little disappointed when we got down to Kofi Brokman, but the good thing is that before he leaves, he would give me a suitable name for that. But what are we doing? We're talking about tourism. How we can turn it around so we can allow the gold and the cocoa and the others, which have always been defined as the robber industry. It's always going away from us. In fact, we could still find a way of selling what we have and then be able to display them as well and get people to come and see it and pay for them. That is what we have been doing on Z101.9 FM this Tuesday morning, the 3rd of February 2026 in the year of our Lord. Prof, now you have looked at all that it is that is required to put us number one on the calendar of tourism. But you would know, you just mentioned something. You said branding. You talked about marketing earlier. If we have all these things and we are not marketing them, and we'll be moving later on into the digital marketing, you know that recently the role of people who do these social media things, the iShow, Speed, and Co. and all that, there are technical names that you might want to refer to them. I am not an expert in those areas because I leave them to you. But the point is that how do we market? How do we brand them? And then we'll put in context this visit by iShow Speed on his iShow Tour Africa, project that he just embarked on, which we are told that on social media attracted over 50 million followers. How are we going to extract, if there is anything like that, the pecuniary value of all these things that we have in the marketing, probably digital marketing of all these resources that we have? Prof.
Thank you very much. So with the Coffee Broke Man, for example, we can call it Yummy Twin or Tasty Twin.
Bazi Twin.
Tasty Twin or Yummy Twin.
Yummy. Which one is that?
The Coffee Broke Man. The Garnot and the Rosa Pande, they're always going together. So they are twins.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Tasty Twin.
Okay. Tasty Twin. Tasty Twin. You don't like Coffee Broke Man.
No.
You like Tasty Twin.
Coconte, then you say face the wall. A very nice meal. All right. Then you say face
but why?
The wall.
When you are eating coconte, don't you face the wall, Professor?
No, you don't face the wall.
What do you do? How do you know the coconte
you
basic?
Eat it like any normal meat. In fact, let me give you a palpable example. The way the Nigerians eat gari, with that kind of joy. Ghanaians look at gari as if they are eating some punishment. That's the mindset.
But gari is what took all of us through our formative years in secondary school, at the university, and everywhere.
Exactly. Colonial gastronomy. That is the problem. All right? So it's part of the mental decolonization that we have to embark on. And now back to the marketing. Marketing, according to Philip Kotler, all right, is starting with a need and getting some benefit from it. And what is a need? A need is a state of what? Deprivation. That self-deprivation. When you actually look at the Maslow hierarchy, right, from the physiological, all right, to the actualization, all along that, as a country, we must look at it, which level that we are. And the good news with tourism is that it's cut across all the ladder. So because when you come to Ghana, you get good food, which is a physiological, all right? It's about interaction,
absolutely,
the social bonding. Then you go. So all the hierarchy right down to actualization, you have got people who get to the castle and they cry. They cry not because they are filled with anger and hatred and all that. No, they cry because of what we call catharsis. They are so now found the bonding, all right, that I am finally home. So that is why we have the glorious door of return, where they come and write, oh, now I am home. So we need to be able to, let me give you a palpable example just so that our audience will enjoy it even into its practical.
Please proceed.
1945 was when we had the most cardinal congresses, African congresses. That Kwame Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, George Padmore, W.E. Du Bois, all of them were there. Last year was the 80th anniversary. I was talking to people over and over again that with Ghana's position as a Pan-African Mecca, all right, we should have a way to make sure that we put it right up in on a map. If you Google on this, and what they did was just something up at once, something small. I had to go to Morocco with a friend who just heard it, and then took it to Morocco, and the Moroccans Academy took it on and invited us to go and speak to it. Why was something that Kwame Nkrumah was co-secretary with George Padmore, which could have brought a lot of light to not only W.E. Du Bois, the W.E. Du Bois guys were there, the George Padmore guys were there, and all that. All right? See, it is the thing. You don't read history and sleep on it. You read history to wake you up.
So 1945 to 2025 was so significant that Ghana could have it's fine for Morocco because after all they are in Africa, and Kwame Nkrumah's cry and vision was for the unity of the African continent. But I agree with you that if it emanated from here, then we probably could have packaged it and sold it primarily to the rest of Africa because it was for Africa, and then secondarily to the rest of the world. This is the point you're making.
Exactly. Because the year of return and the beyond the return, these activities and events and programs, initiatives, they gave credence to Ghana's position again, added on to the Emancipation Day and the Pan Affairs. All right? So you always go back into history. And then you see what is in history that you can use. Tourism feeds on his story and her story. Okay? So you need to go in there and see what you can bring up. The year of return was successful because it was based on something historical.
Okay.
So why is it that we allow history to become banal and just at the back of our minds without us looking at it? All I'm trying to say is that Ghana must be positioned as the most preferred tourism destination in Africa. It is going to be a mirage unless we walk our talk. And that will also mean that we need to be able to look at the private sector and see how they can work together with the tourism ministry, and the agencies under the tourism ministry must be able to help the minister to see how their vision can blossom in a way that serves national interest.
Okay.
If you continue with the diegesis instead of the synergy that is needed, if you continue to be tackling ourselves instead of really looking at the major things that we allow divide and conquer strategies to pulverize our souls, we will not get anywhere. No nation has developed by practicing cannibalism. Nations develop by bringing all their gifts together on the table.
Again.
And again and again, and I say, in the rhetoric of Kwame Nkrumah, is Africa being born in us? As somebody who is blood related to Kwame Nkrumah, when I go to Nzama area, my hometown, and anytime I go to a place where he dug a well for the community in Sayim for us to drink when there's dry season and all that, I just look at why he was always thinking into the future. And the nation must not be looking at their booty. We should be looking at our stars. And the beauty is that God has blessed us with a lot of tangible things. Our kente, which has become an African cultural symbol. What are we doing with it? Our beads, what festivals have we done with it? Our high life, what have we done with it? You see?
High life, Opian, just 1 second. High life, Z is the home of high life. You missed the high life concert in July of 2025. Where Kwabwa, the iconic artist, sold some stupendous. This year, you aren't going to miss that. And I tell you, this is why Z 101.9 FM should be your home for lifestyle. Just to make sure that you are keeping yourself so well and healthy and good. Your leisure, if it comes to rest, relaxation, and recreation, and then finally business, which will bring all the money into the kitty and which will determine where your future would be. It sits right here on Z 101.9 FM. Today, we are looking at tourism and its impact on national development. And our guest has been Professor Gabriel Opia Ishen. And he has been sharing some wonderful insights. It's exactly 39 minutes, just about 40 minutes gone past the hour of 9. In 20 minutes, we'll be wrapping up the discussion. But if you want to join us, if you want to share your views about the conversation, that which went on earlier and what is rightly on now, you can WhatsApp us through 0544 321 019 or 030 395 6641. We are actually streaming live now on Facebook and YouTube. Join us and share your impressions. Later on, you can join us on Instagram and on X, of course, with Facebook on ZFMGH. And if you want to go visit what Z has on TikTok, it's Z Multimedia, just like we have on YouTube. For now, it's about how tourism will inure to the benefit of the common man, to the aggregation of the Ghanaian, and indeed to the African continent and the global world. But what Opian says is that let's stay away from the diegesis and rather begin to pursue what synergies will bring to us, just so we can live. Opia, as the clock keeps ticking, there is some data that we should look at, because you are beginning to look at how these things can point us to the right direction, just so that we can benefit from all these things in moving forward. There is the data which says that in 2023, and permit me, I'll limit myself to international arrivals, even though the data also speaks to the fact that domestic tourism has been pretty good over the period. Let's just limit ourselves to international tourism for now. And it says that in 2023 alone, we had about 1.15 million visitors coming into Ghana. And can you guess what this actually translated into in terms of receipts? Over 3.86 billion US dollars. Now, when you move to 2024, there was a 14% increase in international arrivals. It moved from 1.15 million to 1.28 million, translating into over 4.8 billion United States dollars. Now, the 2025 data is yet to be officially released. But we all know, I wonder where this other name I heard the last time came from. They say what? Dirty December or something? No, I have known it to be December in GH. I don't know where the dirty one actually came from. It is for us to come back home and come and enjoy what we have. Well, we'll have to look at the nomenclatures and see how they all sit rightly with us. But the figures are pointing to an estimated 500 million United States dollars. And that was just for December. Just the 31 days of the last month of the year 2025. Just December. What about the 11 other months? We'll wait for the rest of the official information that comes to us. But Opia, the picture I'm trying to put together here is, if you look at the progress, the trajectory that we have traveled over the period, before COVID, during COVID, 2023, 2024, 2025, if you look at these figures, what is it that we cannot do if we had a certain directed, strategic, and deliberate effort at pushing tourism in this country?
Thank you very much. And I'm quite happy when I hear the figures, because it has been part of our research showing that by 2025 we should have generated 5 billion. When we mentioned 5 billion, people thought we were just drinking some, utopian beer. But the truth is that it has always been like that, that even one time a tourism minister was called Minister for Entertainment, because we don't really understand the cardinal role of tourism. Tourism is not a child's play. Tourism, besides this pecuniary benefit, has a lot of national, cultural, historical ramifications. That African personality that Nkrumah talked about is actually on the shoulders of tourism, because that is where we actually can Afro-socialize. In other words, we can bring the Africanness back to us, because you can really get a nation filled with a lot of knowledge, but they lack understanding and the wisdom that actually encompass them as Africans, and that is where tourism comes in. So the onus is on us for us to look at the quantitative aspect, and I've always loved quantitative aspect, because of course materially we need to benefit from it. It's not a shocker to me that we as a country were able to get 4.8 billion thereabout US dollars in tourism receipts. My joy is that one day, very soon, by 2030, tourism must become the number one contributor to our GDP. That was the vision. That has always been part of my research, and we have been putting out there, in the years and the minds of the nation. And
you want to draw it home again by what? By 2030, you said?
By 2020, tourism must become our number one contributor to our GDP.
Okay, you mean 2030, is that right?
2030,
okay.
Yes. 2030.
Tourism must become
the number one contributor to our GDP. The beautiful thing is that, in fact, let me give you a example again. AU has got Agenda 2063, okay? But how many people have even heard about Agenda 2063? So visions and policies are nothing unless you have got people who show leadership. Leadership is but the B element that we need to be able to bring the change that we are looking for. Because if we don't do things differently, then we shouldn't be expecting a different result. If you cannot get people who think outside the box, who are able to work and not just talk, who are able to form the right network, the right synergy, who are able to project knowledge backed by wisdom, backed by knowledge, backed by realities, then we will be in the arms of Labyrinthines and they will drown us. So we need to be able to clearly come out with the milestones. These are the things that we want to do year by year, get the right people to be able to be there for the evaluation, the monitoring, to be able to show that we are actually on course. And it's not going to happen because it's not going to happen unless we really look at what tourism is and what makes a destination an attractive one. And that is why we need, for example, how many rest stops do we have from the Cape Coast Elibo corridor? What rest stop do we have? On the Accra, Kumasi, we are happy to have Lindador. Is there another one there? From Volta region, what kind of rest stop do we have? So we need to be able to really look at how do we create a memorable experience for our visitors by bringing in the right development. So rest stop, for example, is one of the things that we should be considering. I mean, there are others, all right? But for now, I would like to say that the right people must be put in place to be able to do the right research, the feasibility studies and all that, that taps into our comparative advantages based on the region, and to be able to see which ones are called the strategic 5. There must be about 5 strategic sites in the country that you just mention it in terms of the tangible tourism, that you mention it, it puts Ghana up there. What kind of branding? When I branded Ho as the oxygen city in Ghana, all right? People have not even asked me why did I say it and all that. They just went to EPA, this on this. But it was a whole concept I was thinking about when I said it in 2018, all right? Now is in the public domain, and I know they are doing some great things with it. But we must be able to go to the roots of some of the people who came out with ideas to be able to see what are the things behind the curtain. What were you thinking when you were actually saying this?
So two quick interventions there, Prof, just before you continue. One, you're saying that you had to brand Ho as the oxygen city of Ghana. I'd like you to just give me one shot why you may have done that. And then secondly, you talked about, the infrastructure, let's say from Aflao, all the way to Elubo, and that's the African, the West African Highway project. You know that a very big road infrastructural project is being undertaken, and yet you are saying that we do not have very significant number of rest stops on this highway, such that if we finished building these roads to the highway, the number 1 status and all that, and you are traveling from, let's say, Aflao all the way to Elubo so that you can enter into Cote d'Ivoire, maybe you are coming from Nigeria or from Benin or from Togo, we need to have these rest stops just so that it will facilitate some short stops, which would also bring some eyeballs onto some of the facilities that we have around that would ultimately, propel tourism. So these two quick comments, Oxygen City and then the rest stops, just a little elaboration over that.
Thank you very much. When you get to Ho, which is not too far away from Accra at all, a beautiful, beautiful place with historical significance, people with rich food heritage, all right? When you get to Ho, what really hit me at first, I mean, my background, one of my backgrounds is ecotourism, all right? So I got to Ho and I just realized that, this place, the air here is quite different. Look at the flora at the place. and look at the whole, put it within the whole ecosystems of the Volta region. You realize, and in fact, I did not only even say Ho as the oxygen city. I said the whole Volta region is also the oxygen destination of Ghana. They forget to add that one as well.
The oxygen destination of Ghana.
The oxygen destination of Ghana, or the oxygen region
of Ghana. And the reason?
And the reason is that besides even the ambience and all that, okay, oxygen, what does it do to the body? Is what we actually take it in, just like the plant taking the carbon dioxide. All right? I saw vivacity, the people, their smiles, their hospitality, the food and everything. I realized that Ghana can get a good renewal from the place as well, besides all the greenery. All right? So it cuts across from the biological, the cultural, the ecological, to the very soul of the people at the Volta region.
So not just the oxygen Opian Eshen went to breathe in whole the Volta region, but he also saw the smile. I hope you came back to Cape Coast safe and sound.
Say it again, bro.
I hope, after seeing and appreciating the smile of the people, the reception of the people, the conviviality, as you would describe them, I hope you got back to Accra safe and sound.
I can read between the lines with what we are saying.
Yes. No lines drawn here. Opia, let me just take the opportunity to go through two messages that have come through. It's just 8 minutes to the top of the hour, and very soon we'll be wrapping up on Business Breakfast on ZBBZ on Z101.9, your lifestyle, leisure, and business platform. Two messages. One from Chris East Legon, and he says, most of the roads leading to our tourist destination are in very bad state, and it is hindering our tourism. This is what Chris says. That's number one. Number two, and this is coming from Michael Tessano. He says that the high cost of living, especially in our hospitality sector, is killing tourism and really needs to be checked. In 2 minutes, Opia, bad roads, the high cost of our hospitality facilities.
It's true. It's true. My first time, to Morocco was just this year. And I can tell you for a fact, from Casablanca to Rabat, which is their capital, I've lived a lot of my life in UK, all right? But I was amazed as well, the polished nature of the roads. And I was asking myself, look at these two big cities, all right, connected by roads so beautifully. Why can't you do that for ourselves? You see? So I am all for the express road that the president of the land now is talking about, connecting, for example, Accra to Kumasi, because that is how you actually create more experience on the way.
That you mean the big push project by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama.
It's the right thing. It's the right thing to do. I was in Orlando. I traveled to Miami, and for about 7 hours drive or so, it was a beautiful thing. And now, just by way of this, when you go to US, for example, they brand all the cities. If you go to Las Vegas, they say whatever happens in Las Vegas must stay in Las Vegas. I was in Daytona. Their beach there is not anything beautiful than Labadi.
I thought you were going to say you were in Ekwapim, Ekropon. You are talking about places that I haven't heard about before, Opia. Yes, well, Kofi Anor on Facebook. Opia, just 1 second. Just 1 second. Kofi Anor on Facebook says, good show, Zed. You guys are great. Well, what else can we do if you have Professor Gabriel Eshen speaking to tourism on Z101.9 FM? What else can you do? You want to stick and stay. Opia, enough of the names you are mentioning. Come down to our cinema and come to Ekropon. Come to my holy village and the wonderful things that you can find there. Yes.
You go to every year.
Excellent. Every
but let me just land on this.
Please do.
The governors of the places, they give names to the place that make the place attractive. So Florida would say Sunshine State, okay? And I'm just saying that what is the name for Ebri?
So you did it for who? The Oxygen City, right?
Yes. So why can't we brand a breed? I was in a breed as if I was in a foreign land. I had to put on my car heater in 2020. The whole Ebri is a tourism gold mine.
Excellent. Opia, the high cost of our hospitality facilities.
Yes, every nation has a way in which, just like you go to the airport and you are buying a bottle of water, okay? And then the price is different from when you are outside. The cost that we have in the hospitality, the restaurant and all the hotels, it's a reflection of the economy that we have. And with time, as we pick up more and more in terms of our economy, the prices will adjust accordingly. But then the caveat here is that you cannot pay for something expensive and then the service is no. And that is why if it is expensive, then let's give a matching service to it. So that people will say that, yes, this thing is expensive, but boy, the value and the quality are so much in tandem with the amount of money that we pay for.
And it's difficult to say same of the facilities that we have in Ghana here. And this is something that we should be looking at.
1 hour, the food is not in. When you go there and people are looking at your face as
service quality. This is a discussion we definitely must have again on Z101.9 FM. But Opia, just before we go, because we've got less than 3 minutes to go. Now, you are an expert when it comes to digital marketing as well, and the role of the influencers, social media, and all that. I mean, you have heard about the, I call it the Aisha visit, but the I show speed, not Aisha speed, the I show speed, visit to Ghana and the followers that it has brought. There were other comments that came, people were not too excited about, the other things, including the passport saga and all that kind of thing. But for me, we're looking at tourism, we're looking at its attractions, we're looking at how we can sell it. What is your brief comment on this I Show Speed tour of Africa, particularly to Ghana?
Two things I want to highlight.
Yes.
The first, as a Pan-Africanist, let me talk about the first. The first is what I call the digital decolonization. Digital decolonization is how he was able to portray Africa with all its dynamics in a way that those who have been feeding on the negative representations of Africa, for them to see the real Africa. So he contributed so tremendously, cleansing the minds of people from the miseducation and the misrepresentation that they have. So his contribution to digital decolonization is really enormous. Second is that we are in the era of digital. And whoever doesn't want to go in this direction want to be a dinosaur. And that is why you look at 500 million plus people viewing it. In Ghana alone, for the 8 hours or so, like 4.8 million people watch it. This is the beauty of what digitization can do for us as a people. It is more than even going to pay huge money on Fox News, CNN, and what have you. The country must really look in terms of the tourism, must come out with a tourism strategy, a digital strategy as soon as practicable. And we see how we can use the influencers like with Maya and all that. All these, the other guys, they are all great. And they are all so much willing to do something for the country. But we need to be able to really not just be tourism ambassadors for people who just want to be ambassadors to themselves and not to their constituents and to the global community. We need to be able to really select the right people with the right connections to be able to create the right reverberations in the ecosystem that we want to create. Because a country can gain more leverage these days in the era of the internet and position themselves in the minds and the hearts of the global visitors, be they actual visitors or potential visitors. And that is what Ghana must be thinking about. The tourism digitization strategy must be worked on as soon as practicable.
The tourism digitization strategy, which will propel Ghana onto the rightful pinnacles of development, is what Professor Gabriel Ishen says this morning. This is where we are drawing the curtains on today's discussions on what tourism can bring to a nation, the impact of the activities if well planned. And he's just ended by saying that we don't close, we don't stop at eye show speed. Let's be very deliberate about it, and this country shall see all the glorious things. Opia, on behalf of Z, we say yadasa pay yang krumpon kirampon unsho. Wherever you find yourself, let us think about Ghana and do the right things, and I believe that it shall be well. We'll be talking to you in a very short while later, bringing us much more insights on Z 101.9 FM. Good people out there, it's 10 a.m. and on behalf of the regular host, the production crew, the technical members, this has been Nana Safo Kantanka saying good morning to you. And you want to believe in yourself, believe in Ghana, believe in Africa, and all as well. Next on your radio, your dial 101.9 FM is The Brighter Side with Jeremy Okorie Amwakon. Stepping out for today